iFanboy at New York Comic Con 2012 is brought to you by Seagate.
I'm here with Dennis Hopeless and Artist Alley. Hello again.
Hello.
They don't need to know that this didn't work out once. That's fine. I guess the big thing that's coming up for you is a couple of big things at Marvel.
Yes.
Avengers Arena being one of them. I guess just tell me what Avengers Arena is.
Basically, 16 of your favorite Marvel teenage superheroes, are going to wake up on a crazy island and be told 30 days from now only one of you gets to walk out of here. And the person that tells them that is Arcade. And so the big challenge of the first issue is for Arcade to convince them and you that he means it. So it's like a crazy teenage superhero character drama set in a horrible, horrible worst-case scenario murder world.
And the scary thing about that for me would be having to think of new contraptions, new sort of those death traps. You know,
Sure.
What will happen? Like, is that a thing that's come easy for you, or is that fun for you?
For the most part in this, the death traps, like teen angst is the death trap. Like,
Isn't it though?
yeah, it's sort of like to take high school and make it life or death situation. So he puts them in a scenario where he says, do you really trust all these other people? Some of these people you've never met. Do you trust them not to kill you? And then he disappears into the shadows and waits to see what happens. So we're spending a lot of time and energy earning the kills and earning the animosity and stuff built up, but it's not a murder world like the ones you've seen before. He's very much letting them be the murder world and then stepping back and saying, you have no way of getting out of here and no one's going to find you. But if you kill everyone, then you get to leave. So.
And now you did X-Men season 1, but these are sort of this one and Cable and X-Force are sort of your first two sort of ongoing Marvel series. If I'm not, that's
Yes,
correct, right?
They're my first ongoing series, period.
So like, how's it feel to get going with that? Do you feel like, all right, I'm in, let's go? If you got a planned way out, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going really well. The way that I like to write is like a slow burn. Like I really like to do character moments and to build everything that the character does in through I said slow burn already, but that's what I like to do. So having the space to do it is really fun because everything I've ever done before either was very weakly plotted so that I could have 30-page scenes where people drink coffee, or very tightly plotted and I felt like I didn't get all the character in there that I wanted to. So it's really, really nice to have the space. Plus it's cool, the books are so different that I'm getting to play with a lot of different kinds of characters and different kinds of situations at the same time. So that's awesome.
Actually, can you tell me about Cable and X-Force? Remender had sort of brought back X-Force and made them very, very relevant and very valuable again. And now it's actually splitting into 2 books. So, what's your take on it and what's the deal with Cable? Because I don't get him.
My version of Cable is like Steve McQueen is played by the T2 Terminator. So he's the guy that knows the score, knows what needs to be done, and is the best guy at doing it, but he's probably not going to explain it to you, so you better just keep up. And then I'm surrounding him by a bunch of people that are very good at what they do, but may or may not get along very well. So it's more of like a heist book or a crew book than it is like a team book. And the premise is, after X-Sanction and after everything Cable's gone through trying to save the world over the years, he's ready to retire. He wants to be done with this. He wants to live a normal life. And Hope, his daughter, is sort of in the same situation. Like, she's finally lived with this destiny that she's been told about her whole life, and she wants to live a normal life. But the girl was raised in a post-apocalyptic future by Cable, so she also is very, very bad at living a normal life. So it's the two of them trying to do this thing, not together, but trying to do it. And then something comes up that's like a one last score. Like Cable's like, okay, I'm going to be able to do this, but first I have to fix this. And like all stories like that, it snowballs into a thing that becomes a much larger problem that they have to solve. So that's kind of the setup. And then, from there it turns into like a heist. Imagine a heist TV show starring Cable and the X-Force, and that's what you get.
Well, let me ask you, you're from the Kansas City scene, and I'm wondering, I guess, what's your story? Like, how did you get to the point now where you're writing 2 ongoing stories? Like, how did you get there, and how important was it to be part of that scene? Because I feel like there's a bunch of people who came from roughly the same area.
Yeah, well, creatively and like emotionally, it's awesome to have so many people so close. Like, I can have lunch with Jason Aaron, and that's an incredible thing to be able to do on a regular basis. But also, you spend all of your time sitting in a room by yourself typing. And especially when you're doing indie stuff where the artists aren't getting paid and it may or may not ever get published, it may or may not ever come out, knowing that there are other people out there doing it and talking to them about that same process is really cool. In terms of how it worked, I don't know how I broke in. Someone at Marvel asked me the other day how I broke in, and I don't really know. I wrote a book.
The thing is that it's nobody has the same path.
Right. I wrote a book in 2007 called Gearhead that Kevin Mellon drew. He's a good friend of mine. And then from there, we immediately jumped into doing a book called Love Struck that took him 5.5 years to draw. So those are my first 2 published works. And in between the 2 of them, I wrote 900 pages that for various reasons did not get published. I think I have 16 unfinished or unpublished or will never be published projects that I worked on between there. So at some point, I decided this is infuriating because 5 years gone by and nothing's happening, even though I work on this all the time along with doing my day job. And so I decided to send samples out. So I basically lied, and I took my favorite scene that was drawn and lettered from each one of those projects, went to Kinko's and put them together, and then put a cover sheet on it explaining when they were all coming out. Most of them were not coming out at this point. Sent that along with the Gearhead trade to a bunch of editors, and 14 months later, out of the blue, Alejandro Arbona, who is a former Marvel editor, called me and asked me if I wanted to pitch something. So I don't know what happened in between there,
That's a great version of the story. I like that. That's good.
So yeah, then they had me do a Legion of Monsters miniseries last year that was a lot of fun, and X-Men Season 1. And from that, I got to know Marvel editorial and started pitching stuff, and they offered me 2 Marvel Now books. So I don't know why they did it, but they did.
Well, you did do a graphic novel for them of the X-Men. So speaking of how, if you haven't done a lot of work for them, and the first big project you do is, can you reinvent the X-Men for us for this thing with Jamie McKelvey? What was your first thought about that?
It was interesting seeing the other ones come out. Like, my understanding was, because editorial was very strict. You can't change the continuity. You can update the time period. You can't change the continuity. You can't use other Marvel villains that they did not fight at that time. Because your initial thought is, well, I'll just have them fight other people, sort of like First Class did. Mm-hmm. Can't do that. You can't change what happened. And it has to follow, the beginning, middle, and end of those fights have to be the same. So my thought was, well, I want to tell a new story, so I'll tell a story that takes place between those. Mm-hmm. And so I made like this weird character-driven Friday Night Lights thing where the end of each chapter was the fight that you'd seen before in the Stan and Jack stuff. Apparently no one else is insane, and everyone else just sort of, the ones I've read, retold what was going on. So my problem-solving skills were very weak and created a weird little book that I love. Yeah. It was very, very challenging to write, but I love what we did with it. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but those are my thoughts on the.
It did. That was fantastic. All right, well, you have a lot of cool stuff going on, and people should check it out. And thanks very much, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Josh, I'm on this really weird Wi-Fi signal, and it's got all these really strange German industrial movies. They're all streaming right to it.
That's my Seagate GoFlex satellite.
Oh, it's you.
You can keep up to 500 gigabytes of movies, music, anything you want on here, and stream it to your device with its own Wi-Fi signal.
You just get the free Seagate GoFlex satellite app, and you can stream all your content to your iPad, to your Android devices, whatever you want, so you can get your German industrial movie fix.
Industrial, that's what we'll call it. I got to remember to lock this thing.
Yeah. So it streams Wi-Fi, it's got a great battery, lasts a long time, great for road trips, right?
It's a really cool little device, and you can pretty much put anything on it, and you'll have more stuff on it than you'll ever have time to watch. It's good for kids, good for all that stuff.
Plane rides.
All of these things. And you can, if you are an iFanboy viewer, you can get 10% off. Where can they do that?
They can go to Seagate.com/iFanboy and sign up there and get 10% off buying the Seagate GoFlex hard drive. And we thank them for their support of iFanboy at New York Comic Con.
It's really mostly just kids' movies.
I know. I try to make it cooler.
I know, I'm not edgy.
No.
Sorry.